Chapter 936, Don't Want to Miss Out. Amidst the clacking sounds, a white piece of illusory paper spewed out from the radio transceiver. On it were words composed of Lonese. Exalted Great Master, your puny, loyal, and humble servant, Arodes, is here to answer your summoning. Did you know, Dr. Aaron Ceres's child was born the night before the last? Thankfully, I contacted the magic mirror in time. Klein nodded slightly and said, Now I know. Amidst clacking sounds, more of the illusory white paper spewed out. Based on the principle of reciprocity, it's your turn to ask a question. Klein had originally wanted to ask about matters regarding Insi Zangwill, 008, and the Red Angel Evil Spirit, but considering how he had failed divining it above the gray fog, it was almost certain that Arodes was unable to see it. At best, it could provide him more detailed information regarding 008, but this way, without the gray fog screening, it would be equivalent to him knowing of 008, and it would result in it knowing him. It didn't benefit him when it came to hiding behind the scenes to direct a play. After thinking for 2 seconds, he asked, What means are there to speed up the digestion of potions? Do a better job acting. On the illusory white paper, black words were produced. Upon seeing the magic mirror's reply, Klein first fell silent before he slowly exhaled. For the present him, Insi Zangwill's appearance was too early. He still needed about 2 months to completely digest the Mariontist potion. When that happened, and with him already gathering the ingredients, he could orchestrate an assassination of the demigod, Insi Zangwill, placing the sequence advancement with his wish together. Then there was no need for him to consider any room for retreat. However, Insi Zangwill wouldn't appear until he was done preparing everything. He wouldn't follow the steps that Klein had in mind. Based on Klein's earliest ideas, it was to first gather information, figure out where Insi Zangwill was, and wait until it was late August or early September before confirming the plan based on the situation. If not for the possession of the evil spirit, Insi Zangwill wouldn't have exposed himself. If he didn't use Insi Zangwill's current condition, it was very possible that he couldn't find the ladder again once he exorcised the evil spirit. Coincidences would stand in his way when it came to meeting him. Furthermore, if that were really the Red Angel Evil Spirit, Klein was also worried that Insi Zangwill might have already died by the time he and Leonard started exacting revenge. The reason behind his death could be due to certain machinations or from some ridiculously comedic situations, and not because of his sins. Due to these considerations, Klein attempted to digest his potion faster, hoping that he could complete it within a week or 2. However, Arodes's answer left him depressed. He also knew that this wasn't something he could force. In 2 weeks, or even in the next few days, how was he to create a better opportunity to act? In his silence, Klein had already made up his mind. He didn't plan on tying the two matters together, and from the beginning, he wanted revenge against Insi Zangwill as his primary goal provided there was a chance of success. He didn't wish to miss this opportunity. Although it had only been about 10 months, less than a year, since the incident at the Blackthorn Security Company, it felt like a very, very long time, so long that he didn't wish to wait any longer. Catching a glance at the gloomy radio transceiver, Klein thought before wearing a stern look, he asked with a deep voice, Back when I used the Winter Marionette to look at myself, I learned why Beyonders of the Fate Pathway will have such a reaction when facing me. Now, I would like to know what you see when you look at me. This question was a bolt out of the blue that seemed to echo in the room. The radio transceiver suddenly fell silent, and the clacking sounds sounded after quite a while. A black illusory piece of paper spewed out, and on it were ghastly white words. I see support and dominance from you. Are you satisfied with such a question? Support dominance, what does that mean? Klein had planned on pressing on, but he believed that Arodes was unlikely to explain it too clearly because it lacked the required knowledge. Realizing that the mother tree of desire was about to find him if he kept this up, he nodded and said, Acceptable. That shall be all for today, you may return. The clacking of the radio transceiver became increasingly brisker, as the paper that appeared was white again. All right, great master, goodbye Tilda, your loyal and humble servant, Arodes, is constantly at your service. This time, the magic mirror seemed to forget to add a hand-waving drawing. That was quite a quick escape. Klein mumbled and immediately took 4 steps counterclockwise and entered above the gray fog. He conjured the world Jayam Sparrow and informed the hermit Catlia that the mythical creature blood she needed was ready. She was to provide the means to regain a certain amount of strength during one's weak stages as quickly as possible. Before long, Catlia set up a ritual and sacrificed an item to the fool and requested this mighty existence to hand it to the world, and tell him that the principle of the item's effect was to temporarily borrow a portion of one's strength from their former self. This sounds familiar. It sounds like the powers of the Seer Pathways Sequence 3 Scholar of Yore. The fool Klein was surprised as he picked up the item that Ma'am Hermit had sacrificed. It was like the end of a cane with a long transparent gem embedded on it. It was carved with complicated, mysterious, indescribable, 3-dimensional symbols and magic labels. Klein recognized 2 of them. One was the incomplete pupil-less eye, and the other was the incomplete contorted lines. Could this be an item that really points towards Sequence 0 the Fool? But isn't it a little too complicated? This cane feels really familiar. It's like the crystal ball Little Sun had used when he prayed to me. See, could it also correspond to another crimson star? Klein looked out the ancient palace with an odd expression, but all he saw were illusory stars suspended in the infinite gray fog without any signs of abnormality. With the fact that such items were one-use items like charms, he abandoned the idea of experimenting with it. All he could do was summon some paper from the junk pile and seriously record down the complicated and abnormal symbols and magic labels on the cane. Lone Kingdom, Backland, Dr. Aaron's residence. A maid was inside the master bedroom, taking care of a soundly sleeping infant. Downstairs, the banquet which had many guests attending had reached the midway mark. Suddenly, in a corner, 3 figures quickly materialized. Leading them was a man in a silk top hat, black formal suit. He was none other than Klein Moretti, who hadn't disguised himself. He tossed out a charm and muttered an ancient Hermes term. Crimson. The dark red flames flashed, and amidst a light explosion sound, soothing powers emanated out. The maid fell asleep instantly, collapsing onto the bedside into a deep sleep. Klein made his 2 marionettes stand in their spots as he walked to the infant's cot and cast his gaze inside. It was a child wrapped in silver silk. His skin was very fair, and he was fleshy with layer after layers. This infant showed no fear towards the stranger, as he looked straight at Klein with his eyes wide open while sucking his fingers. Ahem, Klein couldn't help but smile as he took off his hat and bowed. Congratulations on being born. You should say that to my parents. The infant pulled out his fingers and spoke with a bright voice that didn't match his age. Klein chuckled and didn't harp on this meaningless topic with the snake of fate. He went straight to the point. I brought the method that allows you to regain a certain amount of strength during your weak stages. You can now give me that drop of placenta blood. Will Ossipton opened up his fleshy palms and said, Let me take a look first. How do you know that the method is an item? Klein couldn't help but ask in puzzlement. Will Ossipton scoffed. An intuition of fate. It's like you didn't say a thing. Klein moved the cane from behind him forward and handed it over. The infant held it tightly and glanced at it twice before raising its voice. This can only be used once. That's right, only once. Is that a problem? Klein deliberated and said, With your level and abilities, you can completely replicate the symbols and magic labels engraved on it, and then prepare the corresponding ingredients to hold the correct ritual. Wouldn't that allow you to use it multiple times? Will Ossipton suddenly cut him off. All right, I accept it. Remember, you were the one who suggested it. Klein was momentarily a little dumbfounded, but he also seemed to realize something. He had a vague feeling that, despite him being here to take advantage of a baby, it ended up as the baby taking advantage of him. Yes, I was the one who suggested it. He finally drew a breath and nodded earnestly. The baby's plump face revealed a smile as he spread open his other hand. I've already prepared it for you. A total of 2 drops. 1 drop is for the transaction, and the other drop is your commission for facilitating this transaction. There's a commission. Klein was delighted as he hurriedly looked at Will Ossipton's palm. There were 2 drops of silver blood there. Each drop appeared to have countless, minute, aloof, illusory wheels spinning. They formed a belt that had its head connected to its tail. Just one look at it made Klein seem to lose his ability to think. He felt all his thoughts repeatedly appearing in his mind. He hurriedly shook his head and took out the iron cigar case, which contained Azek's copper whistle. He then placed the 2 drops of Snake of Fate blood, which had clearly been sealed, inside. "Thank you for your generosity," Klein said sincerely before asking, "Can this be used to make a charm?" The baby sucked his fingers and said, "Of course. As for the exact symbols needed to be carved, you have already seen those. You are free to choose a combination. Whatever you get will all depend on your luck." Klein nodded and asked again, "Who should I pray to?" "You're probably unable to respond to relatively high-level rituals for the time being, and praying to our Ouroboros is bordering on being a provocation. Do I pray to sequence 2 Angel of the Fate pathway, but I don't know their honorific names." Will Ossipton immediately grinned. "There's a more convenient method." "Who?" Klein pressed in delight. The baby replied with a giggle, "Empress of Misfortune and Horror."